Hello, good afternoon, or good evening, depending of where in the world you're watching. My name is Andrea. Welcome to the A4Q World Congress on the first day. Today we have two guests with us. I'm just going to do a very quick introduction for them. I'm not going to take too much of their time for the presentation that they have ahead for you. So here we have Renzo Cerquozzi, computer scientist for more than 35 years, experience in industry, in and banking as an employee and contractor, wide experience in software development, management, requirements engineering, real life experience in many methodologies, and team member by the Swiss Testing Board and ISTQB Vice Chair Agile. And we also have with us Juraj Huska, a software developer with with a test engineering background, bringing 10 years of experience in big enterprises as well as in startups with great passion for automated testing. So without taking too much of your time, I'm going to pass this on now to Renzo for him to start the presentation. And thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Renzo.
Thank you, Andrea. Hello, everybody. Renzo Cerquozzi here. Andrea already explained everything about my short experience. Just to keep it short again, with 35 and plus year experience in software development and testing, software testing. I'm working in industry, in civil, military, banking environment, in a testing area since 20 years, a bit more than 20 years, and covering all the test types, from manual testing to automation testing, test engineer, test executor, test manager, program test manager, and so on and so on. I have a deep passion for all testing types, as I said, and working for a big bank in Switzerland, and working for roughly 45 applications, while 10 of them are in mobile. So that's because we are, together with Juraj, my colleague, we are interested and really like to talk a bit about the mobile testing using Appium. Outside of the working time, I am at the Swiss Testing Board Director exam, and also Vice Chair at ISTQB in an Agile Working Group. Okay, just going a bit in detail to our presentation, we would like to present the Appium for mobile testing. Just to keep my overall presentation short and give more time to Juraj, I will try to really be very fast. The Appium training consists of 4 different parts. We have the syllabus, theory, the exercise part, training, where on the paper is written what the student should do, and the student does, of course. And we have the sample exam as well as certificate exam. So the syllabus and the exercise are cobbled together. So means we don't have only theory and only practice, but we have theory and practice together. Learning how to install Appium, we will also install Appium. Writing the first application and testing the first application, we will also write the first application and we will see how it works. And not only the happy flow, how to see how the application works in a positive way, but also to see what to do when something is going wrong. The exercise, the number of pages not giving the complexity of the real information, we are talking roughly 130 under 40 pages. So it means we are trying to teach from the basic to advanced, so this technique, so the student can learn really how to approach the test automation till to the real problems. The sample exam is just some help or support to the student to prepare himself for the certificate and participate to the exam. As I'm passing it, of course, it will allow him to get the Appium Mobile Tester A4Q certificate. To remain short, this is the status of the course documentation. The syllabus and the question are in a beta review, almost finished, but we have some checks to be done, not only for the English definition, but also for some content. And the exercise plan is almost completed. We have some small redactional things to be done, formatting, but it's almost completed. Can jump, yeah. Here's just a short screenshot how the first page of the syllabus looks. As you see, the working release is 08. Also, the next release should be 1.0, also the release. And the table of content is really made very short. Also, we have more chapter, of course. I'd like to give you an idea how we go to teach. So introduction to the testing basics, as for automation, of course, some introduction to Appium, the setup, the how to use the Appium, how to write the maintainable scripts, and so on. The next is also a very easy screenshot how the exam practice looks like. On the top right, we see one screenshot, the virtual testing device, how the virtual testing device looks like, what we can test, how we can test using emulator and simulator, for example. In the middle screenshot, we see how our first hello world app to be tested. In the bottom right, we see just an example how to program, how to write the code to automate. That's really in a short, brief introduction about the Appium mobile testing training. I will give the word now to Juraj, and they will bring you a bit more in detail to the Appium, what it is, what it does. Please, Juraj, up to you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Renzo. So basically, a short story about me, where I come from, what is my experience. I'm Juraj Huska from Slovakia. Currently, I'm a senior full stack engineer, coming with 10 plus years of experience, and I have a quite big passion for testing and test automation. It's also basically how I started, how I was introduced to the IT world. I started as a test automation engineer for various bigger companies, from which I would like to mention mostly Red Hat, NetSuite, and my current employer, UBS. I was also speaker on various Selenium conferences. So first of all, let me please mention some common challenges which an organization as bigger or middle organization size-wise might encounter on their way to basically become successful on the field of mobile application testing. I would like to distinguish these challenges into two categories. The first category, it's environmental challenges, I would say. And those who are coming from the background of web testing probably are familiar with this huge metrics of browsers and their various versions. And guess what? In mobile testing, it's quite similar, and I think it's bit more challenging. And why it is so? So first of all, it's the huge number of operating systems you have to support in order to basically test the broad range of mobile devices from different mobile device manufacturers. And it's not only the Android and the iOS and the multiple versions they have, but it's also the flavors usually, and from the Android as is an open source, as then you basically have to encounter a lot of challenges which the differences in the Android are bringing to your testing. And as I said, it's also the different manufacturers, and even the same manufacturer is coming with a really broad range of devices, coming from starting with low-end devices, and then up to their flagships and really high-end devices. Each of the devices coming with different hardware specification, and also with different screen dimension, which of course means that on every device your application would look like a bit different, and also could have different functionality which you need to cover. Another point I would like to talk about, it's you need to support emulator and simulator in your tests, as well as testing on real devices. The reason is simple. You probably wouldn't be able to cover all of your tests in a real device, testing scenarios. Basically, because you would need to have really a huge number of real devices, and those tests tend to be bit slower with regard to the setting up of the environment, and also kind of cleaning up after the test is finished. So for those tests which you are able to run in emulator and simulator in terms of reliability, so for those which are rather not end-to-end and doesn't integrate with all of their device peripherals, those are definitely good candidates for the emulator and simulators. So basically, you need to support both. Next thing is the actually what type of application under test you are testing. If you are a bigger organization, then usually you will need to support all three types, which are currently most used on the mobile devices. Because if your needs for application are to be as fast as possible and to integrate with all of the possible peripherals which are not yet in the HTML5 standard, you would probably go with the native application. So you need to support the native one, and so on for the hybrid and the web application one. And as I mentioned, if your application is just a web application, then the browser metrics is a bit smaller on a mobile device, I would say, because predominantly used browser on the iOS is Safari or the Chrome, and on the Android device is usually Chrome. So it's a bit easier, but still we need to support different browsers. And what is also very kind of normal nowadays, I would say, that your mobile device have much more peripherals than before, because part of the same flow you are testing on your mobile application is on the mobile device, and the second part of the flow could be on the smartwatch or smart TV. So it's good to have support for those other devices running those operating systems as well. A second type of the challenges I would like to mention is basically resource challenges of mobile testing. And here we like to distinguish it between the devices and the basically people you need to do the job. You need access to a huge number of devices because if you want your test to be reliable, you need to test at least the end-to-end test on a real device. And with the fact that the devices are coming every year, new ones, and that there is a quite short life cycle of the software upgrades, you need to really think about the maintainability. And basically, what you would end up in the end of the day is a need to build a testing lab with a real devices, which kind of brings its own challenges. Uh, starting from how would you charge those devices? How would you ensure there is a strong internet connection? How do you, clean up? How do you do about the upgrades and stuff like that? So you need to be kind of wise about this thing. Even though from the beginning it seems like you would need like 5, 6 mobile devices in a team, maybe the newest one, and then some low ends devices. In the reality, you need much more of those devices, especially when your developers develop the feature. They need to do a lot of exploratory testing as well as your testers, and they then need to be hands-on with the devices. And then you basically end up with kind of a big portion of the maintenance for your test suite being consumed by the basically maintenance of the mobile devices. And the second research challenge, I think, which is quite visible sometimes, I would say, is the need to have good test automation engineers. And I think it's not very easy to find these skills nowadays. And part of the reasons, I think, is that test automation as such is not usually covered at universities. The reason is quite simple, because at universities usually they have to do some kind of theoretical background, which is then broadly usable to different problems. And test automation is a small niche which is then usually covered by trainings and by basically knowledge sharing within the teams. The second thing is a test automation engineer needs to have software developer skills for sure. And the thing is, I think that, and it's actually example of that as well. Once you have developer skills, you rather go for a developer career, and developers rather develop stuff. And so I think you are kind of stuck with two options then, either to find a ready-made software, test automation engineer, or you could upscale either a manual tester, which is, I think, quite possible, but comes with great challenges. Or the second way, I think, what you could do with terms of when it comes to the upscaling, and what I would like to talk about is actually upscaling a web automation engineer, especially the one who has Selenium WebDriver skills. So why Appium? I think Appium is addressing most of the challenges I was talking about before, if not all of them. Basically, Appium supports native, hybrid, and as well as the web applications. It's quite clear. It supports both real devices and Android emulators or iOS simulators. What I like that it's not reinventing a wheel. It's basically reusing already de facto standard for web testing, which is a Selenium WebDriver, which is really great for knowledge reusability in your team. And as I said, I think it's very easy for a Selenium WebDriver automation engineer to grasp the basics of the Appium and basically be productive from the day one. It's very nice that it provides the same API for all of the platforms, whether it's iOS or Android. And then what you could actually end up is one script, which would be running cross-platform on Android, both Android and iOS, which is actually obviously a huge maintenance saver. It supports usage in the cloud, and basically what I mean here is kind of outsourcing the real devices as well as the simulators and emulators maintenance to a cloud. So basically, it's easier to have access to the new devices as well as to the old ones. And I think it significantly or could lower the maintenance cost for the mobile testing lab, which would be running on premise. There is no need to modify the application under the test, which is also important stuff, because then you kind of could rely on that what you actually is testing is what the customer would see. I also like that it's open sourced. It's actually a really important point, I would say, because usually what companies and bigger organizations do, they don't just use the vanilla Appium, but one of the test engineers who is introducing the Appium to the test suite usually builds up test harness and the common utilities and tools around the Appium, and again wraps the Appium to some kind of library which could be then reused for other test suite as well, and bringing some common functionalities which are specific for the company, which are not general enough to get into the upstream, which is the Appium. And this is really great when it's open source, because then once you can look under the hood of the tool you are using, you are actually much more effective. You can debug possible problems. You can basically see how other people are doing similar stuff. And yeah, Appium has a quite nice and big community. So to maybe give you some kind of overview of what actually Appium is, I wanted to talk about the architecture of the Appium. It could maybe gives you kind of a feeling on of what skill set is needed to actually build Appium test suite. So there are three main components. Uh, I would start with the mobile device where the application under test is actually running. So that would be the first component. And then there is a client-server architecture, basically consisting from Appium server and Appium client, while the Appium server is a simple Node.js server, which is basically sending the commands to the device where the application is running and is basically exercising the test and the test script on the mobile device, as well as is getting the responses from the mobile device, as well as the Appium server is communicating with the Appium client, which is in a simple terms basically the test script. And the test script basically calling of the Appium client libraries and whatever other test harness code, whether it's in Java, JUnit, or TestNG, to actually be able to run the test. What is nice about the client that it's not only Java where it started with, but it provides clients in different languages as well. The JavaScript, Python, and C# as well. Basically, most of the most used, would say, languages nowadays. So basically, that's the architecture. And last thing I wanted to talk about today is basically why I think this Appium training could be a good source to start with the Appium tool as such. As I said, I think it's a good way to upscale the Selenium WebDriver as automation engineer, but it's also meant to be something to train testers which has no prior Selenium WebDriver knowledge. It's kind of focusing on practical knowledge, which means that it goes deeply on the topics like how to basically inspect application structure, what would be the best way for Android, for iOS. But at the same time, I think it's providing enough of theoretical background, which is also very needed, especially as I said, when you need to build something around Appium, you kind of need to know what is available, what can be solved basically by a simple Appium API call, and what on the other hand is not available and would need to be kind of hacked by running different commands through, for example, ADB and other operating system platform tools which are specific for Android or iOS itself. So it's also covering what kind of mobile application types and what strategies are needed to be employed to test those different types. It's going deeper to virtual versus real device testing. What are the advantages of one of or the other? And yeah, briefly go through Appium installation, also Appium drivers, because it's a bit topic which is maybe sometimes not that clear. There's multiple drivers. You need to kind of know which one to use and what situations. And practical stuff like running of the Appium test. So basically, that would be everything from my side about the Appium training. So thank you very much for the attention, and we are, I think, open for the questions.
Thank you so much for that, Juraj, and very interesting presentation. So we have already a couple of questions coming up in the comment section, but actually, Paolo, if you could put the question, you can send us a question to the email address I put over here. Let me just put it on screen. Congress@a4q.eu. We'll be able to answer your questions as soon as possible there. If anyone else also watching does have any questions, just you can send the email to this one that I have put on screen. I'll also put it here as a banner so you can see a little bit easier. There you go. And then we'll be able to answer all your questions here as soon as possible. And thank you so much once again, Renzo and Juraj, for joining us today. I believe Renzo is going to be actually in the Congress Hall area a couple of other days during this week. I don't know, friends, if you would like to communicate which other days and times you're going to be there as well.
Yes, I will be tomorrow. Will be participating, and the day after, I will also be in the Swiss Testing Board virtual desk. So if you want to meet me, my name is Renzo C or Renzo Chair. I know that's the name, and anytime tomorrow, I also can give you some answer if I can. Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care and have a very good evening. Tomorrow is going to be the second day of the A4Q World Congress. We're going to have a couple of different languages also happening on that day. So stay tuned, and we look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.